Okay, to do this project, you're going to need the white piece of paper I gave you. I gave you a piece of cardstock, so it's a little bit thicker, but if you lose this picture or paper or you mess up, you can just use a regular white piece of paper. You need a glue stick or glue and scissors, and then your colored paper. Okay, so to start off, I need to make 2 towers. So I'm going to just start cutting paper and building. Now, you do not have to feel like you have to match them. You can, but you don't have to. Now, another thing when you're making a tower, it looks kind of weird if you're making your bigger blocks at the top because it looks like it's going to topple over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these so that my smaller blocks are on the top. I think this one might be too big because what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to fit that second one on here. I'm not gluing anything yet. I'm going to build my towers without gluing anything because I need to make sure it's how I want it. Okay. You don't have to just use rectangles. You can use squares. You can also use triangles. So any geometric shape that you want. So I'm going to build a tower, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, some of these papers are thick and some of them are thinner. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you like. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of fool around with it and see if it's something I like. If I put a triangle there, it would be kind of weird. I kind of need to put the triangle up on the top or have something that goes with it, because it's going to look like it's toppling over. You just want to make sure that your tower looks like it's going to stand. Maybe I'll do a bigger, I was thinking of doing something maybe a little bit bigger. I noticed on Matisse, he has some of them that are big, like this even. I could do that. I'm using a lot of different colors. If you want to make it more one color or 2 colors, or you want to say I want to use the cool colors or I want to use the warm colors, you could do that as well if you wanted to. I don't know, I'm just kind of fooling around here. And they can overlap too if you want. Okay, so I have 2 towers any way you want them to be. So once I like how my 2 towers are, if I don't like this, I can go ahead and change it and I could move something out and, okay, I don't like that, I'm going to put this here. And it's okay to overlap them. All right, so when I get it how I want it, I'm going to glue each piece down. I'm not going to actually glue it right now because I'm just showing you. All right, now how do I do the sea creatures? That's the question. Okay, so I'm going to get a piece of black paper so you can see it better and work on the sea creatures. So towers is step 1. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, so for the sea creatures, there are a couple different things you can do. Now, remember on our last Matisse project, we made like the seaweed, and we did that by cutting like a stem and then just cutting like blobs, kind of like leaves. You could do that. He does that in his Beasts of the Sea. So that's one thing you could do, is cut like kind of like seaweed type shapes. Okay, that's one thing you can do. Another thing he does is he just cuts a bunch of triangles and puts them together. So you could just kind of put, now to do the triangles, what I did was I just cut at an angle and then I cut it straight and I have a bunch of triangles. So there's one part where he does a bunch of triangles and makes it kind of look like, I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, some kind of coral or something. Okay, so there's the bunch of triangles. Another thing he does is he does this kind of swirly shape. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay, so what I do is I take my scissors and I just go around in a circle. And I go around and then I keep going smaller and smaller. So I keep going inside, inside, smaller, and I turn my paper smaller, 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 smaller. Okay, now, that still doesn't really look like much. So what I do is I take it and I do the same thing in the middle of what I've already done. So I cut in the middle all the way around, and I keep turning it, so I'm cutting in the middle of this piece. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take some pieces out, and so it's going to make kind of like a hole there so you can see the background colors. So I just keep cutting along and going in the middle all the way around. I can stop right there. Okay. And if I don't like this extra part, I can cut it off. So there's a curly Q, and here's another curly Q, and Matisse likes to include those in his work. Okay, another thing that he has is just kind of like some kind of maybe sea serpent. So you can cut that by just making a squiggle, almost like a snake, and then just go back the other way in a squiggle, and squiggle, squiggle, and just, there we go. And there's your sea snake. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, one more thing that I see him do is make some kind of a plant. And so what he does for that is he cuts a lot of little, he makes it very fringy. And so what I'm thinking is, you know when we did fringe, when we were doing our, I think that was Amber Waves of Grain, and we just made a bunch of little cuts like this. Okay, so I think what he's doing is he makes a cut and then he cuts that part out. So I make cuts, and then every once in a while I just cut the piece all the way off. So I make fringe, and then this one I'm going to cut off. I make fringe. This one I'm going to kind of tear out. So that's one way you could make some kind of plant. I don't want to make it too big. So now I'll go on the other side. So I'll kind of turn it around and I'll do the fringe. And I'll make fringe, and then I'll cut one out so you can see it. And I'll do some fringe, and I'll cut it out. So that's a sort of plant-like thing he has there. And then sometimes he just does little small squiggle shapes. Okay. There you go. All right, now we're going to go back. So these are my shapes that I've cut out, and I'm going to go back to my towers. Now I have to just fool around and put them somewhere. And I want to get make sure I'm getting black and white in here as well. So when I put this down, I'm going to layer them and see where it looks good. Like, I kind of like how some of these look against the black. Because look at, if I put the red on top of these, it doesn't really stand out. So I might need to cut some black and put some black in here so some of these will stand out more. Or maybe replace something. Or maybe this is just too big and I need to cut it down and make it smaller. So what you're going to do is you're just going to experiment and put things on and figure out where you want them. And it's great to overlap them where you want. But I got to get some black on here somehow. So let me go get a piece of black, hold on, and somehow overlap this. Maybe I'll move these. So you just fool around with it, get it how you like it, and maybe it would look good to put these on the black. Okay, so that's how you do it. And then you just keep doing it until you feel like you have enough that you like, and then you're done. I'm going to add a few, I feel like I need a few little more squiggles in there. Maybe over here. Yeah. I could maybe take a little more time with this. Alright? Get some more black and maybe even get some more white on there too. But that's the idea. Towers, the animals on top. Make sure you have black and white in it.